ここにお金を入れてから。
そういう場所なのか?
This is what happens when y'all are sponsored by Toy. So, after a week off because of the Olympics, which did anyone actually watch or even really care about? Legit question, because me and my family didn't really give a hoot. We opened on the Natsumi breakfast table, where the father had cooked them all local specials, including some memorably tasty looking ham and egg on toast, though as someone who also comes from a tropical setting, I think they're lacking in protein variety. Like, where's the hash? Where's the spam? Where's the Portuguese sausage? Alright, kind of lost my train of thought there, so let's just move on. So, after Manatsu did some Ginyu squad exercises, we got the opening that still hasn't changed at all.
何もやりたくないです。
Seriously, they borrowed to change the sponsor image and even added a Lemaire bubble here, but they're still ignoring the most important thing, or just make these take priority. Anyway, we cut over to the lair of the witch, who was having trouble with her stock overlay effects. Apparently something was wrong with her because she still didn't have the motivation energy she needed. Yeah, I'm still not completely sure what this lady's deal is. But still, Butler had the solution from the last episode, and thus took the new Monster of the Week type that she had just created. You know, after the Zens just kinda fizzled out. With that, he deployed Numeri to go on a special assignment for something other than motivation energy. Meanwhile, the Precure were following Manatsu's lead to a secret beach she knew about.
The secret spot
There, I did a rocket power reference. Y'all happy? Anyway, the rest of the Cures were a little skeptical about her directions. Well, everyone except for Minori, who I guess after kind of tearing apart her own character a few episodes back, was determined to become the meme character of this show.
まさに水を得た魚じゃなくて人魚。
Okay, that line kind of worked. Anyway, it was just a cute scene of our heroines enjoying their time at the beach. But it was cut a little short when Asuka decided to be a bit of a buzzkill and suggested they do something relevant for the Tropical Club, like exploring the urban legends about the island. Thus, after getting some advice from Mr. Natsumi, they decided to talk to the elder of the island to learn more about it. And you know, this kind of reminds me of the fact that the writer of this episode, who's also the head writer of the whole series, Masahiro Yokotani, also wrote a couple of Godzilla movies where they used a similar setup for lore building, most notably Tokyo SOS. Just as long as this doesn't lead to some weird little ladies who sing to summon Mothra, then we're all good. But yeah, there, they had a grandfather character exposit about his previous experiences with the kaiju, which seems to be a similar case here with an old lady character named Tomi and her encounters with a mermaid. Yeah, as it turned out, Manatsu's alleged pirate treasure actually came from a mermaid with a design similar to Laura's, though with blue hair. Gee, I wonder if this is someone close to our resident fish girl, not as though the show has introduced any other plot-significant mermaids. But yeah, I actually really like this scene as it sets up the premise of characters passing down stories through the generations. It just kind of gives the show a nice sense of lore and world building. And with that, they made their way to a cave where the mermaid of the forest was sighted and supposedly hid her treasure. And yeah, said cave had an admission fee that technically they didn't have to pay since it was unmonitored, but they probably needed it for the lights. Seriously, the upkeep here was better than the caves of Kalmana. Surprisingly, they also kept Manatsu's fear of ghosts consistent here. Trying to figure out clues to the treasure, Minori asked Manatsu if she knew any significant folk songs because I guess she saw the 7 Conan movie, one of my personal favorites by the way. However, a surprise encounter with Numeri scared them off and got them separated from Laura, who really needs to watch her new feet a little more. Eventually, they had to fight the new Zetai Yaneda and its stoner eyes. Seriously, can I have whatever this dude is puffing? All the while, Laura stumbled upon the new, reasonably priced toy upgrade for herself. Which, fun fact, apparently this item went on sale just a week after Laura's Precure debut, and even discounting the Olympics break, it's now only appearing in the show about a month later. Just saying, Toy, you're a little bit slow with your toy commercials. Granted, you're not as bad as Hasbro. The original four engaged the high flashlight after understandably skipping their usual transformation sequence since they were kind of running out of time in the episode. I mean, it's not as though they used that to show Laura's transformation in full, or never mind. Anyway, the resulting fight was better than average, though I did expect a little more from this animation director. More on that during the final thoughts. Anyway, after a rather brutal takedown when you stop and think about it, the Precure launched their big chicken finisher and... Well, credit where it's due, I didn't exactly see that coming, mostly because we've already kind of done this. Yeah, this is just like when the very first Zen Zen tanked Manatsu's finisher, also that the show could transition from some of those great individual finishers to the chicken, which is now getting its turn to fade into irrelevance. I get that they need to sell the new toys and everything, I just kind of wish they didn't do it by downplaying the old stuff. It just becomes kind of transparent that they want the viewers to forget about the old and move on to this new stuff when they just invent a new monster type to tank the old finisher. But yeah, Laura just kind of got her new finisher, which I guess looked better than the old one, like upgrading from Bubble to Bubble Beam, I guess. I mean, it's kind of short and all the colors just kind of blend into Laura herself, and again, this stuff is nowhere near as dynamic as the original individual finishers. Anyway, with her monster defeated, Numeri made her exit and unintentionally left a hole connecting to the ocean. The Precure quickly made their own escape, minus Laura.
ラメールがいないぞ。
溺れちゃうよ。
Okay, forget me, Nori. That was easily the funniest line in this whole episode. Seriously, they actually tried to play it up like Laura, the mermaid, was in trouble against all this water. I mean, yeah, it has been established that she can't swim in her human form, but the Precure forms have been shown to breathe in water, which Manatsu should know personally. But yeah, thanks to it, she jumped out of the cave and managed to recreate the previous mermaid's actions. This again played into my favorite part of this episode, the idea of passing down folktales down through the generations, with one of the village kids swearing that he'd share his experiences with the next generation. Anyway, Numeri reported her failing to get Laura's bracelet, which she thought was her target, but in actuality, it was supposed to be this holy grail looking thing, as it held a large amount of motivation power that would allow them to use the Fool's Grave to grant their wishes. Though I think in this guy's case, he wanted to use it more like a certain other grail. And with that, the episode ended the only way it could, with a super smug Laura. This was an okay episode. I mean, it definitely had some interesting world building that I am very much looking forward to them expanding upon, hopefully in the near future. And of course, our heroines just interacting with one another is always a fun time. I just wish that same kind of lore and character building could be invested in our villains and their rotating door of monsters of the week. This is one of those episodes where you can really tell the head writer had returned to add some much needed lore and characterization to their show. He took full advantage of the stuff he likely didn't even write, like Banach's fear of ghosts and Minori's love of mysteries, because he seems to really respect the contributions of his secondary writers. And of course, he brought his own stuff to the table, like some interesting new lore and seed planning for future events. That said, I think there were some things that were beyond even his control. For an episode that was meant to build up to a new power-up, there wasn't that much build-up in the actual fight at least. While it looked good, it was also all too brief to take in, which is a real shame because Nishiki Itaoka, this guy, was the animation director this week. But now, we mostly got this thing flashing the Precure before it was defeated by the new finisher it was blatantly meant to job to. Again, not only does this all feel overly toyetic, it doesn't even make the new monster type feel particularly strong. Worst of all, it kind of got in the way of all of that great lore building. Like, what happened to that grail Butler was after? Did Laura take it, or is it still stuck in those flooded-in caves? Which, by the way, y'all kind of just ruined a major source of income for Manatsu's Island. Again, I still like this episode, and am looking forward to what it can build to, but just like A Day at the Beach, I think we need to start minimizing all of these distractions. If you haven't seen it yet, I actually managed to crank out a review for the Healing Good movie, guest starring the Yes Precure 5. Yeah, low spoilers for that review, but I would mostly consider this a Healing Good solo film, which I do see more as a positive, as it is just good to see this team again. So check out the review for my thoughts on that, and also hope that the Heartcatch team isn't reduced down to just a glorified cameo like these girls. And until next time though, farewell for now my friends, and if you excuse me, this episode has inspired me to live it up like a pirate! And by that I mean, I'm just gonna drink some rum. It helps me get through the late night editing, okay?